Hi everybody, Sean Belding here. Welcome to the third video in the two-part series on managing your tone of voice. This was originally supposed to be a two-part series, but there is so much material for the second video and it just was going to get crazy long that we decided to divide it into two parts and make it overall a three-part series. So this is part 3 and we're going to talk about loudness and inflection and timbre in our voice and how to create it and why it is so important. Now, if you haven't already, please do make sure to check out video number 1 and video number 2. Video number 1 talks about the science of our tone of voice and why it's so important. I think a lot of us don't realize how much of a very real difference it makes in how people perceive us and how people perceive you and in your opportunities for success in life if you do business over the phone. The second video, we introduce some of the first 2 of the 5 controllables of our voice. The first one being speed and the second one being pitch. And those, again, are very important. And some of the principles we talk about in video 2 set up for this video. So it will make a lot more sense for you if you watch them in order. However, if you're just only going to watch this one, well, hi, I'm really glad that you made it. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I hope you enjoy it and yeah, have fun. The third controllable in our tone of voice is loudness, and that's the volume that we speak at. And as with the others, there are times that we speak louder, there's times we speak quieter. It's usually kind of our gut instinct. We don't even notice we're doing it. It's just reflexive when we do that. And again, like with the others, we do have to do this tactically. It helps a lot when you are aware of the volume of your voice and that you're using that for a tactical purpose and not just letting your emotions take control over that part of your language. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on loudness because I think most of us understand it and understand what it is. Just one particular note, and that is this. When you're speaking to somebody, you are speaking with a purpose in mind of that person understanding you, right? Of that person getting whatever message it is you're sending. So what that means, of course, is it's not about you. It's about them. Because one of the greatest challenges that people have, I think many people have, is when we're in a room, you're in a classroom perhaps, or a training room, and you're doing a presentation, there's 30 people in the room, and there's many people that aren't comfortable projecting loud enough so that the person in the other end of the room can hear it. And we have to. You have to. The reason we don't do it, the reason people are uncomfortable doing it is because you feel self-conscious. We feel that, I feel like I'm shouting, I feel self-conscious. Well, that's the thing, it's self-conscious. It's not about you. You need to be the other person conscious, not self-conscious. And you have to speak loud enough so that that person, as far away from you as possible, can hear you. Don't be shy to project your voice. In fact, if you find yourself in a situation with a customer, again, so this is over the phone. If you're over the phone and you have that customer going, sorry, I can't quite hear you. Sorry, I can't quite hear you. Speak up. It doesn't matter what your comfort zone is when it comes to the volume. It matters what your customer's comfort zone is when it comes to the volume. The same with speaking quieter. I mean, there are some people, and perhaps you, I know many people that have naturally loud voices. And if that's the case, you need to be able to be aware of that and be willing to dial it back a little bit, become a little bit quieter when you're dealing with that with somebody else, particularly if it is a sensitive issue, particularly if it's an emotional issue. Those are the things where you want to maybe start talking a little bit quieter. You might slow down your voice so your speed slows down and your pitch comes down a little bit, and all of a sudden you have a slower speed, you have a lower pitch, and you're speaking much quieter, and it becomes the voice of empathy. And that's what it's all about. So again, be aware of your volume of your voice and really be conscious of how you use volume when you're talking with a customer or a colleague or your boss or an employee. Again, it's one of those controllables, and it can make a big difference. The I in split is inflection. So this is the fourth of the five controllables. And inflection is really a combination of speed, pitch, and loudness. So this is where you put the emphasis in a sentence. Inflection is when people talk about tone of voice, when people say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. What they're really more often than not talking about is inflection. And inflection is tremendously important. It may be the most important part of tone of voice, and it's hard to teach. A lot of people, in fact, a fairly recent study came out saying that, oddly enough, people aren't really conscious of their tone of voice. Have you ever had that person, have you ever witnessed a conversation where somebody says, well, you got to watch your tone of voice, and the other person says, what's wrong with my tone of voice? I've got a great tone of voice, right? People don't hear it, and that's just the way apparently that we're wired. So unless you're consciously focused on it, which we have to be as professionals with our voice. So when you think of tone of voice and think about the impact it can have on people, you can create really different moods. You can create different attitudes. You can convey a lot of stuff that would normally be on your face and face to face with your tone of voice. So, for example, here's three words said two different ways that send two very different messages. Listen to this. Nice job, Sean. Nice job, Sean. There, isn't that interesting? So just three words, nice job, Sean, and one way of saying it is high praise. The other way of saying it is kind of deep sarcasm. For the record, I like the first one better in that context, but it's true. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, and that's the inflection that we put in our voice. When you combine them, and where within a sentence you put the inflection makes a big difference as well. So I could say something like this. I could say, I didn't say he could do that. Fairly simple sentence. But if I put the emphasis on the I, it changes it, doesn't it? From I didn't say he could do that to I didn't say he could do that. The implication is I didn't say it, maybe somebody else did, right? Or if I change that emphasis, take it off the I, and I put the emphasis onto the he, I could say, I didn't say he could do that, right? With the implication that I said she could do it, or I said everybody else could do it, but not him. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And we have to be careful of that, because sometimes if we are not paying attention to our tone of voice, then sometimes, that saying about our inside voice comes out. And sometimes we can say things with a tone that is absolutely unintended. And that's because we're not paying attention. The last of the five elements in our tone of voice that we can control is timbre. And this one is particularly important because this is, I think, the one that people are least aware of and spend the least amount of time trying to control. And it can make a huge difference in how you're perceived. So timbre is often referred to as the color of a voice or the texture of a voice or the feel of a voice. You think about people that have remarkable timbre in their voices. It's people like Benedict Cumberbatch or Morgan Freeman. Julia Roberts has a fantastic voice. Emily Blunt. All of these people have these very, very rich voices and the ability to use them so well. So timbre is created, the sound itself is created from here, and then from here. So you all know people that have a nasal voice, I'm sure. Now this is, if I take all the sound in my voice and I put most of it through my nose, that's a nasally voice. That's what that is. That's the timbre of my voice, right? Not necessarily that pleasant to listen to, but
But then if I take it and I just make all the sound come out of my mouth like this, so there's nothing come out of my nose and I'm really not generating anything else, then you get this kind of a sound. It's very thin and very sort of unsubstantial and very quiet because there's not a lot of room there to make a lot of noise.
And then you can make the same kind of sound from your throat where most of the sound is being generated here. Like, that's like Goofy, right? But that's where the sound, most people's voice, it comes from. We're creating it in here.
So that's it. So it's a nose, and then it's the mouth,
and then it's the throat where the sound comes from. Now, that's sort of the end point of the sound. But where sound is generated is here. So it comes obviously from our lungs, because it's our lungs pushing the air past our vocal folds that makes them vibrate, and then the texture of the sound comes out from that. The thing about our lungs is this, is that when you are speaking, most people speak and they're not like taking deep breaths. So they're sort of pushing air up lightly from their lungs. But the powerful speakers, people whose voices are far more powerful, they're pushing it from down here. They're using their diaphragm, and that is the muscle that sits right on the bottom of the lungs. And when it compresses, it pushes up like this, and it pushes sound out. So when you hear those people with those resonant, rich voices, they're the ones that are creating it right from down here. James Earl Jones is a wonderful example. If you're old enough, I don't know if you're old enough to remember Barry White. If you're not, get onto YouTube and just listen to Barry White talk or sing from the 70s. And he has the most amazing rich voice that you'd ever want to hear. The thing is this, is that our timbre isn't cast in stone. You talk the way you talk right now because that's the way you've always talked. You haven't trained yourself to talk any different. And the difference is profound. It was about 15 years ago, and I was in Chicago. I was working with a group of managers, and it was about halfway through the program. It might have been lunchtime. It might have been a break. And a young woman came up to me, that one of the managers, and she'd been there for 4 or 5 years. Bright young woman, and she came up and she came up and said, "I'm wondering if you can help me." And I'm not mocking her. She's somebody that had a voice that was just a tiny little bitty voice. "I wonder if you can help me." And I said, "Well, sure. How can I help you?" And she said, "Well, I don't think people take me seriously." And again, I'm not going to keep talking like that because I don't want it to sound like I'm mocking her, but she was afraid people weren't taking her seriously. And she had been passed up for at least one promotion, perhaps 2. And she believed that that was a big part of it, is that people didn't take her seriously. And I honestly, sort of inside, I sort of had to agree, because her voice really did sound even smaller than a small child's in some ways. So I gave her the name. I happen to know somebody who was a voice coach in Chicago, who unfortunately now is long since retired, but gave her this name of this voice coach and didn't think much of it. As 2 years went by, I'm back and I'm working with the same company, and the same young woman walked. I met her in the hall on the way to the training program, and it was like, "Hi, Sean, how are you today?" Wow. It was like an entirely different person. And did it make an impact? Well, if you ask her 100%, she'll tell you it did. During that time, in that 2 years since I'd seen her last, she'd had 2 promotions, and she believes that it was 100% because she has learned to speak with greater authority, to sound like she has greater confidence, that she's learned how to use her voice. So don't underestimate all of this aspect of your voice, and your timbre can be practiced. Morgan Freeman, he claims that one of the reasons he's able to get such wonderful sounds is that before he goes on stage, he yawns. Because when you yawn, you relax the muscle in your vocal folds, and it allows him to push more air out. But these are things you can practice. Here's what I do, and I encourage you to do this. If you're in the car, you're alone in the car, practice things, do different voices. You do scales. You can go ba 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 ba. You can practice going gorge, I can do this. I don't know what you're talking about. You can do all different kinds of voices, high, low, in between. As long as nobody's hearing you, because otherwise people might think that maybe you're a little strange. But you can do that in the shower. You can do that when you're in their car. Probably not a good idea to do it in the subway. But when you get good with your voice, it makes such a difference. And particularly if you're dealing with people all day long, if you're in a call center, if you are dealing with people remotely, again, perhaps you're a leader and you have people that are working from home and they need to have confidence in you. The more you can do with your voice, the greater the impact will be. That's it. That concludes the two-part video series on tone of voice. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. If you're interested in learning more about how to develop your tone of voice, if you are hoping to train yourself a little bit better, so whether you're in customer service, whether you're a leader, whether you're dealing with people that are working from home or you're working from home yourself and really do want to be able to make a difference, or if you just want to have a more dynamic voice, stay tuned. Belding Training is introducing in the first week of July, we're going to be introducing a dynamic and very comprehensive e-learning program on tone of voice. It's a 6-part series. It's got exercises. It has tests. It has all kinds of things that will help you gradually improve your voice. And it becomes a reference that you'll be able to go back to. So again, if you're interested in that, let me know. Send me an email. You can send me an email at Shaun, that's SHAUN, at beldingtraining.com. You can leave me a message in the comment section below this video if you're watching this on YouTube. Or you can just, again, you can look up beldingtraining.com and send it to the general email address there. If you want to know more about it, please let me know. And I will make sure that as soon as this e-learning program is released, that you get an update on it. It's going to be tremendous and it will make a difference. Of that, I am absolutely confident. Thank you for joining me. It was a lot of fun on my part. I hope you'd enjoyed it. And until the next time, take care.